It's funny, isn't it? How certain memories stick with you crystal clear, while others fade into a blurry background? For me, the sharpest, most painful memories are often intertwined with Terry. My younger sister, Terry, 33, the golden child, the life of the party, the one who could do no wrong. And me, Emma, 37, the smart one, the responsible one, the invisible one. Before I pull back the curtain further on this saga, tell me, where are you watching from? And if you crave more tales of those who refuse to be outsmarted, hit that like and subscribe button. I remember my elementary school graduation like it was yesterday. I'd aced every subject, won the science fair, and was giving the valedictorian speech. My parents were there, of course, dutifully seated in the audience, but their eyes, their attention, their hushed whispers were all for Terry, who had just managed to tie her shoelaces without assistance. I stood on that stage, beaming, reciting my carefully prepared speech about the future, about possibilities, and all I could hear was my mother cooing, "Look, David, Terry's so clever. She did it all by herself." It was a pattern that would repeat itself endlessly throughout my life. High school was no different. I spent countless hours buried in textbooks, fueled by caffeine and the desperate hope of academic validation. I poured my heart and soul into my applications, aiming for the stars. When the acceptance letter from MIT arrived, emblazoned with those prestigious letters, I thought, finally, they'll see me. I ran downstairs, clutching the envelope, my heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. My parents were in the living room, fawning over Terry's latest artistic masterpiece, a stick figure drawing of a cat. "Mom! Dad! I got into MIT!" I practically shouted, my voice cracking with suppressed emotion. My father glanced up, a polite, almost bewildered smile on his face. "Oh, that's nice, dear. Terry, show your mother how you made the cat's tail wag." My mother barely registered my presence, her eyes glued to Terry's crayon creation. My grandparents, John and Martha, were different. They were my anchors in a sea of indifference. "Emma, honey, that's simply phenomenal!" Grandma Martha would exclaim, her eyes crinkling with genuine pride. Grandpa John, a man of few words but immense wisdom, would simply nod, a knowing smile on his face. "We always knew you had it in you, Emmy. You're going to do great things." They weren't wealthy, not by any stretch, but they lived comfortably, and more importantly, they lived with open hearts. They saw the dismissive way my parents treated me, and it pained them. They were the only ones who truly listened when I spoke of my dreams, my aspirations, my quiet triumphs. It got to the point where I'd save my good news just for them, knowing they'd celebrate it with the enthusiasm my own parents reserved for Terry's every whim. After graduating from MIT, I dove headfirst into the world of engineering, determined to carve out my own path. Life, however, had a cruel way of reminding me of my place in the family hierarchy. When my father lost his job, the weight of their financial stability fell squarely on my shoulders. Without a word, without being asked, without a single acknowledgement, I took over their mortgage payments. I paid the utilities, I covered their car insurance, anything to keep them afloat. Meanwhile, Terry, with her perpetual air of carefree abandon, went off to college, supposedly to find herself, which mostly involved attending frat parties and accumulating an impressive collection of questionable life choices. I tried, I really did, to share my professional milestones with my parents. "I'm starting my own company," I'd announce, my voice bubbling with the excitement of a new venture. "It's called EJ Technologies." They'd nod vaguely, their eyes already drifting towards whatever minor drama Terry was currently orchestrating. "That's nice, dear. Did you know Terry got a B+ on her sociology paper? She's really applying herself." Years passed. EJ Technologies grew steadily at first, then exponentially. We hit 100 employees. Our valuation soared past $150 million. Each time I tried to share these momentous achievements, they were met with the same polite disinterest, overshadowed by Terry's latest, most trivial accomplishment. A particularly vivid memory is the day we closed our Series B funding round, valuing the company at over $200 million. I called home, practically bursting with pride. "Mom, Dad, we just finalized a huge investment. This means so much for the company."
There was a pause, then my mother's voice tinged with excitement. "Oh, Emma, that's wonderful. But guess what? Terry made a souffle, and it actually rose. We're so proud of her."
Through it all, I remained the dutiful, loving daughter. Besides the mortgage and utilities, I gave them access to my black card for emergencies and necessities. Then came the bombshell. I was in the middle of a crucial expansion plan for EJ Technologies, preparing to open offices in Europe. The days were a blur of meetings, negotiations, and endless travel. I called home briefly to let them know I was heading overseas. That's when Terry, with a theatrical flourish, announced her engagement.
To Harry Miles. A seemingly ordinary man, but to my parents he was a prince, a conquering hero. "Emma, darling, Terry's engaged!" my mother shrieked, practically vibrating with joy. "Harry's such a catch! They're perfect for each other!"
I tried to interject, to tell them about the European expansion, about the monumental steps EJ Technologies was taking. But my words were swallowed by their effusive praise for Harry, their endless swooning over the perfect couple. They were already planning an elaborate engagement party, then a wedding. Despite their perpetually strapped financial situation, they were determined to throw the grandest affair, even if it meant dipping into their non-existent savings. I had to leave the next day for my trip, my news, my entire existence once again relegated to the background. It was during that trip, halfway across the world, that the first tendrils of dread began to coil in my stomach. Notifications on my banking app, usually a quiet hum of transactions, started to ping with alarming frequency. Large sums, unfamiliar vendors, my black card. A cold knot formed in my gut. When I finally landed back in the US, jet-lagged and a little frantic, I received a text from my mother. "Darling, the engagement party is in 2 days. We can't wait for you to see it." 2 days? I hadn't even known a date had been set. And the charges. They screamed of something far grander than a simple gathering. I checked my card statement again, my blood running cold. $250,000, $250,000 on my black card, for an engagement party. I stormed into their house, the printed statement clutched in my trembling hand. "What is this?" I demanded, my voice raw with a mixture of disbelief and fury. My parents, caught off guard, exchanged nervous glances. "Oh, Emma, darling, you're back!" my mother chirped, attempting to deflect. "Don't darling me this $250,000 for Terry's party. How could you? And on my card." My father, usually so passive, puffed out his chest slightly. "Now, Emma, there's no need to overreact. It's Terry's engagement party. It's important. Besides," he waved a dismissive hand, "you probably never marry anyway, and you won't miss the money." Those words, uttered so casually, so cruelly, were like a physical blow. You'll probably never marry and won't miss the money. After everything. After paying their mortgage, their bills, offering them a lifeline, they saw me as nothing more than an ATM. The love, the unwavering loyalty I'd poured into them was apparently worthless compared to Terry's fleeting happiness. My eyes welled up, blurring the opulent decor that now mocked me from every corner of their living room, a living testament to their blatant disregard. Distraught, tears streaming down my face, I drove straight to my grandparents' house. They listened patiently, their faces growing progressively grimmer as I recounted the tale. When I finished, the silence was heavy, punctuated only by my ragged breaths.
"They've gone too far, Martha, too far."
They need a lesson, John, a profound one. They need to understand the true cost of their actions.
And that's when the plan began to take shape. A plan born of love and righteous anger, designed not to destroy, but to teach. A plan with interesting twists, an unexpected ending, and the hope of finally earning the respect I deserved. The engagement party was a spectacle. an explosion of wealth and extravagance that made my stomach churn. Held at the city's most exclusive country club, the ballroom was draped in imported silks, chandeliers dripped with crystals, and a live orchestra serenaded the hundreds of guests. Terry, resplendent in a designer gown, glowed with a self-satisfied radiance, Harry beaming at her side. My parents, playing the role of proud hosts, circulated amongst the elite, reveling in the borrowed grandeur, completely oblivious to the sword of Damocles hanging over their heads. I arrived late, meticulously dressed, a cool mask of composure firmly in place. My grandparents were already there, seated at a discreet table in the corner, their expressions unreadable. I caught Grandma Martha's eye, and she gave me a subtle, almost imperceptible nod. It was time. Midway through the evening, after the toasts had been made and the expensive champagne flowed freely, my grandfather, with a surprising spryness for his age, stood up and tapped a spoon against a crystal glass. The clinking sound, though small, cut through the din of conversation.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention for a moment?
A hush fell over the room. My parents looked bewildered, then annoyed. Terry just looked confused.
Tonight we celebrate the engagement of Terry and Harry. It's a joyous occasion and a truly lavish one, I must say.
He paused, a slight, almost mischievous glint in his eye.
And it is indeed paid for by the generous hand of a loving family member.
My parents swelled with pride, assuming he was about to credit them. Terry preened.
However, there seems to be a slight misunderstanding about which loving family member. You see, for many years, my granddaughter Emma has quietly borne the financial burdens of this family. When David lost his job, it was Emma who took over your mortgage payments, without a word, without a thank you.
A ripple of murmurs went through the crowd. My parents' faces paled. Terry looked bewildered, then a flicker of annoyance crossed her features.
And when she started her company, EJ Technologies, a company now valued at over $250 million, you dismissed her achievements, focusing instead on every minor thing Terry did, no matter how insignificant.
He gestured around the lavish room.
This magnificent party, costing a staggering $250,000, was charged to Emma's credit card without her knowledge or consent, a card she provided for emergencies and necessities, mind you.
The murmurs grew louder, turning into shocked whispers. My parents looked as if they'd been struck. Terry's jaw dropped.
And when confronted, they brushed it off saying, and I quote, "You'll probably never marry and won't miss the money." Is that how you treat the daughter who has literally kept a roof over your heads for years?
The air in the ballroom crackled with tension. Guests exchanged uncomfortable glances, their earlier jovial expressions replaced by shock and disapproval. My parents were beet red, stammering incoherent protests. Terry, for the first time in her life, looked utterly mortified. The fallout was immediate and spectacular. The lavish party, once a symbol of their social triumph, became a public spectacle of their familial negligence. The story, embellished with every retelling, spread like wildfire through their social circles. The next day, articles appeared in local society pages, subtly referencing the unusual financial arrangements at the Miles Jones engagement party, leaving no doubt as to the true benefactor. But the real twist, the unexpected ending, was yet to come. 2 days after the party, a legal document arrived at my parents' house. It wasn't a lawsuit. It was a meticulously detailed bill from EJ Technologies. The bill itemized every single payment I had made on their behalf over the years. Mortgage payments, utility bills, insurance premiums, medical expenses, everything. It included interest, compounded annually at a market rate. And at the bottom, a line item for consulting fee, financial management and oversight for the past decade. A charge based on an industry standard for such services. The total came to a staggering $4.7 million. Attached was a polite, professional letter, signed by me, but written in a legalistic tone, stating that due to the recent unauthorized and exorbitant use of company funds, EJ Technologies was now formally seeking reimbursement for all outstanding services rendered and expenses covered on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. David Jones. It gave them 30 days to pay, with a further clause about asset liquidation if payment was not made in full. My parents were in hysterics. They called me, alternating between furious accusations and desperate pleas.
Emma, what is this? Are you bankrupting us? We're your parents!
I'm merely collecting on services rendered, Mum, I said, my voice calm, almost detached. You valued Terry's needs over my financial well-being, implying I wouldn't miss the money. Well, now you'll see how much I miss it. This isn't about revenge, not truly. It's about demonstrating the true cost of taking someone for granted, of seeing your own daughter as an unlimited resource.
Emma, this is crazy. What are you doing to Mom and Dad?
I'm teaching them a lesson, Terry, I told her patiently. A lesson they should have learned long ago. The lesson that actions have consequences and that love isn't a blank check. My grandparents, meanwhile, had quietly initiated the final, most impactful part of their plan. They had over the years carefully invested a portion of their comfortable savings. Not in flashy stocks or risky ventures, but in small local businesses, real estate and government bonds. Just before the engagement party, they had liquidated a significant portion of these assets, transferring the funds into a new separate account. When my parents, desperate and facing financial ruin, finally came crawling to my grandparents for help, they were met not with pity, but with a different kind of understanding.
We cannot simply give you the money. That would defeat the purpose of Emma's lesson. You need to earn your way back.
Grandma Martha, with a gentle but unwavering resolve, laid out the terms. My parents had to agree to attend weekly financial literacy courses. They had to volunteer at a local charity, dedicating a significant portion of their time to helping others, experiencing what it was like to give without expectation of return. And most importantly, they had to start spending dedicated quality time with me, listening, truly listening to my life, my challenges, and my achievements. They were to write me a formal apology, acknowledging their past behaviors and expressing genuine remorse. In return, my grandparents would loan them the necessary funds to pay back EJ Technologies, but with strict repayment terms and a clear agreement that the principal would be repaid through a combination of their newfound financial acumen and the proceeds from the sale of their now oversized house, which they were to downsize significantly. Terry, for her part, was deeply affected by the public humiliation and the financial crisis. Her engagement to Harry Miles, unable to withstand the scrutiny and the sudden financial burden, eventually dissolved. It was a harsh reality check for her, forcing her to confront her own role in the family dynamic. She started working part-time, took on some volunteer work, and for the first time began to genuinely reach out to me, not for favors, but for advice, for conversation, for a genuine connection. It wasn't an overnight transformation. There were still moments of awkwardness, relapses into old habits. But slowly, painstakingly, things began to shift. My parents, humbled and stripped of their material comforts, began to see me, truly see me, for the first time. They started coming to my company events, not as an obligation but with genuine interest. They asked about my work, my team, my vision for the future. They listened, and they started to show genuine pride. Terry, no longer the entitled princess, found a quiet strength she never knew she possessed. She even started taking online courses in something she genuinely enjoyed, graphic design, and was surprisingly good at it. She would occasionally come to me, not for handouts, but to show me her latest project, seeking my honest feedback. The $4.7 million was eventually paid back to EJ Technologies, mostly through the sale of my parents' house and the loan from my grandparents. The consulting fee I quietly donated to a scholarship fund for aspiring female engineers, a small gesture to ensure other bright minds didn't feel as invisible as I once did. The revenge wasn't about inflicting pain. It was about forcing an awakening. It was about resetting the scales, not just financially, but emotionally. And in the end, it wasn't just them who learned a lesson. I learned one too, that true worth isn't determined by external validation, but by internal conviction. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is to hold them accountable, to show them the true cost of their actions, and to give them the opportunity to earn their way back to respect, to love, and to a genuine, healthy family dynamic. Now, years later, our family gatherings are quieter, more genuine. There are no grand pronouncements of Terry's minor achievements, no dismissive waves of my own. We talk, we laugh, we argue like a real family. And when I share news of EJ Technology's continued success, my parents listen, their eyes alight with a genuine, unforced pride. Terry even asks thoughtful questions. It's not perfect, but it's real. And for the first time in my life, I truly feel seen. What would you say is the most challenging aspect of forgiving someone who has deeply hurt you? If you enjoyed this story, please like and subscribe to help the channel grow. Hey, maybe even go crazy and smash that bell icon to be notified of new stories. Well, maybe not smash it, as that may damage your computer. Better just to click on it. You never know, one may even hit close to home. Thank you.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're plunging into a truly powerful personal account, one that unravels these really complex layers of family dynamics, the hidden costs of emotional neglect, actually a surprising, pretty difficult path to redemption.
Yeah, it sounds intense.
It is. We're going to explore your shared sources focusing on Emma's story. It's a narrative that really forces you, to confront some uncomfortable truth about entitlement, validation, and what it truly means to be seen within your own family.
And this story vividly illustrates how unacknowledged contributions create this, profound form of emotional debt. It's not just about what's missing, is it?
No, exactly.
It's the active denial of value, which, as we'll definitely see with Emma, can just fester and demand an accounting far more complex than, a bank statement.
That's a really critical observation. So at the heart of this saga are two sisters. Emma, she's 37, described as the smart one, the responsible one, the invisible one. And then there's her younger sister, Terry, 33, who was always the golden child, the life of the party, the one who could do no wrong.
The classic dynamic.
Right. It really sets the stage for this saga of unacknowledged achievements and just profound emotional neglect that runs, I think, deeper than you might initially imagine.
Okay, so where do we start? Early life.
Yeah, let's unpack this, starting right there, Emma's early life. From a very young age, a clear, recurring pattern emerged. Her parents' focus was almost solely on Terry.
Always on Terry.
Always. Imagine this. Emma's elementary school graduation. She's the valedictorian. She's won the science fair. She's given the speech on stage. Big deal.
Huge deal for her kids, yeah.
But her parents, their attention, their hushed whispers, were entirely for Terry, who had just, get this, managed to tie her shoelaces.
Oh, wow. That's rough. What's the lasting psychological scar of that kind of active dismissal, especially from your main caregivers?
Right, active dismissal.
Yeah, that's a crucial distinction, active dismissal.
Yeah.
Research on sibling dynamics shows that this kind of consistent emotional deprivation, where one child is actively dismissed while another is celebrated for, like minimal achievements. It doesn't just lower self-worth.
Right.
It can force the neglected child to seek validation elsewhere, or as in Emma's case, maybe to overcompensate by pursuing these extraordinary achievements, sometimes unconsciously hoping to finally be seen.
And it just kept going. Fast forward to high school. Emma studies countless hours, works incredibly hard, gets into MIT, huge accomplishment.
MIT, wow.
She rushes downstairs, heart pounding, clutching the acceptance letter, thinking, finally, this is it, they'll see her. But her parents are in the living room, fawning over Terry's latest artistic masterpiece, a stick figure drawing of a cat.
A stick figure cat? Seriously?
Seriously. Emma practically shouts, "Mom, Dad, I got into MIT." And her father glances up, and his response, "Oh, that's nice, dear. Terry, show your mother how you made the cat's tail wag."
Oof. That's heartbreaking. Just devastating.
It really is.
It just raises this important question. What happens when your greatest achievements are met with such profound indifference? For Emma, it clearly meant her parents never truly became her emotional safety net.
No, definitely not.
Instead, that role, it seems, was filled by her grandparents, John and Martha. They were her true anchors.
Thank goodness for them.
Yeah, they saw her, they listened to her dreams, they celebrated her quiet triumphs with genuine pride. They became the only ones Emma would even share her good news with. It really illustrates how vital an alternative support system can be when primary caregivers fail.
Absolutely. And this next turn in Emma's story is particularly revealing about the cost of that neglect. After MIT, she dove into engineering, founded her own company, EJ Technologies. Successful.
EJ Technologies. Got it.
But life kept reminding her of her place. When her father lost his job, Emma quietly, without being asked, without being acknowledged, just took over her parents' financial stability.
Took it over? How so?
We're talking mortgage payments, utilities, car insurance, everything, just handled it.
Wow. And where was Terry during this?
Oh, Terry was off at college, supposedly finding herself.
Yeah.
Which the source says mostly involved frat parties.
Huh. Figures. What prevents families from seeing this dynamic? How does it often escalate to a breaking point like Emma's clearly headed towards?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It really is. Often it's this combination of, unconscious expectation and maybe a convenient blindness. The responsible child, like Emma, typically enables it, right?
Yeah, she did.
And the favored child and the parents, well, they benefit from the status quo. It highlights this deeply ingrained expectation that Emma would always be the one to provide, financially and emotionally, without any reciprocal acknowledgement.
No give and take.
Exactly. It usually takes a major rupture, like this financial betrayal that's coming, to shatter that ingrained expectation and force some kind of reckoning.
And the dismissals just kept coming, even with her company. EJ Technologies hits 100 employees. Its valuation soars past $150 million. Huge milestone.
Massive.
Emma tries to share this news, maybe hoping this time. But it's overshadowed by her mother, exclaiming, "Did you know Terry got a B+ on her sociology paper? She's really applying herself."
A B+ versus $150 million valuation.
Right. Later, the company closes a Series B funding round that's a significant investment stage, for high-growth companies, valuing it at over $200 million.
Even bigger.
Emma calls home, bursting with pride, only to be met with her mother's excited report that Terry made a souffle, and it actually rose.
A souffle. It's incredible the extent to which Emma's parents were just blind to her real-world accomplishments.
Utterly blind.
This wasn't just neglect anymore. It feels like an active redirection of focus, constantly reinforcing Emma's invisibility in their eyes.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yet, despite all this, Emma still extended this gesture of, maybe love, maybe desperate hope. She gave them access to her black card.
Ooh, the high-limit exclusive credit card. For what?
For emergencies and necessities. That was the explicit understanding. It's like this quiet testament to her unwavering, almost desperate commitment to her family.
That black card. I have a bad feeling about this.
Yeah, that black card became the ultimate betrayal. Emma was in the middle of a monumental European expansion for EJ Technologies. Huge deal for her company.
Right, so she's busy focused overseas.
Exactly. And that's when Terry, with apparently a theatrical flourish, announced her engagement to some guy named Harry Miles. Her parents, despite their, strapped finances because Emma was paying the bills, immediately began planning a lavish party.
Of course they did, even though they couldn't afford it. It's striking how Emma's world-changing professional strides were, again, completely relegated to the background, considered less important than Terry's personal milestone.
Totally.
This pattern of dismissal had become so deeply ingrained, it was almost like a reflex for them.
So while Emma was overseas, working on this huge expansion, the first tendrils of dread began to coil. Notifications on her banking app started pinging a lot. Alarming frequency. Large sums, unfamiliar vendors, all on her black card. She tried to rationalize it, maybe emergencies. But the sheer volume, the speed of the charges, it told a different story.
She must have been frantic.
Totally. When she landed back in the U.S., jet-lagged and just frantic, a text from her mother read, "Darling, the engagement party is in 2 days. We can't wait for you to see it."
2 days? She didn't even know the date.
Had no idea a date had even been set.
Wow. That feeling of dread, followed by the inevitable revelation, that's a pivotal moment. It's the breaking point for Emma, isn't it? Where the emotional disregard turns into just blatant financial exploitation.
Absolutely.
It's a betrayal that crosses such a clear line because it's not just about feelings anymore. It's about tangible theft.
It certainly was. She checked her statement online, and her blood just ran cold. $250,000.
$250,000 on her black card.
For an engagement party.
Unbelievable. What did she do?
She stormed into their house, the statement clutched in her trembling hand. "What is this?" she demanded. Her father, usually passive, puffed out his chest and said, Now, Emma, there's no need to overreact. It's Terry's engagement party. It's important.
Overreact to $250,000.
Right. And then came the kicker. He waved a dismissive hand and said, besides, you probably never marry anyway and you won't miss the money.
Oh my God. That's unbelievably cruel.
Isn't it?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, those words, they delivered such a profound emotional blow. After everything Emma had done, the unspoken message was just crystal clear. She was an unlimited resource, her worth tied only to her utility, not her existence as their daughter.
Exactly. Like she wasn't even family.
It stripped away any illusion that her financial support was ever appreciated. It was just a cold, calculated dismissal of her entire being, almost as if she wasn't truly family, but merely a bank account they could tap.
So, distraught, Emma just drove straight to her grandparents' house. Her anchors.
Thank goodness for them again.
They listened patiently, their faces apparently growing grimmer and grimmer as she told them everything. When she finished, the silence was heavy. Finally, Grandpa John broke it, his voice low and laced with this quiet fury. They've gone too far, Martha. Too far.
Okay, so the grandparents are stepping in.
And that's when the plan, the real plan, began to take shape.
A plan. Okay, I'm intrigued. What happened at the party?
The engagement party itself was apparently a spectacle, held at the city's most exclusive country club, dripping with imported silks, crystals, the works, all paid for by Emma, unknowingly.
The irony is just staggering.
Terry and Harry beamed. Emma's parents reveled in this borrowed grandeur, completely oblivious to the storm brewing. Emma arrived late, meticulously dressed, a cool mask of composure firmly in place.
Walking into her own financial crime scene, basically.
Pretty much. And then mid-evening, Grandpa John stood up.
Here we go. The plan unfolds. This public unveiling feels crucial. It's not about petty revenge, is it? It's about forcing a public reckoning. Bringing the hidden truth into the light where it can no longer be ignored or just dismissed. It's about creating an undeniable reality, a mirror held up for everyone there to see.
He clinked a spoon against a glass, got everyone's attention, and began. Tonight we celebrate the engagement of Terry and Harry. It's a joyous occasion, and a truly lavish one, I must say. He paused, apparently with a mischievous glint in his eye.
Setting the stage.
And it is indeed paid for by the generous hand of a loving family member. Emma's parents swelled with pride, assuming he meant them.
Oh, this is good. The setup.
But then, Grandpa John's voice took on a serious tone. However, he said, there seems to be a slight misunderstanding about which loving family member.
Ooh, the pause. That slight misdirection must have been agonizing for Emma's parents. He's setting them up for the complete dismantling of their public image. Very intentional, very strategic. Not just to expose, but to teach.
Totally. And he looked directly at them, the source says, and then exposed Emma's years of quiet financial support. For many years, he announced, my granddaughter, Emma, has quietly borne the financial burdens of this family. When David lost his job, it was Emma who took over your mortgage payments. Without a word, without a thank you.
You could probably hear a pin drop. Murmurs must have started.
Oh yeah, murmurs rippled through the crowd. Then the bombshell. This magnificent party, he gestured around the room, costing a staggering $250,000, was charged to Emma's credit card without her knowledge or consent.
Whoa.
A card, he added pointedly, she provided only for emergencies and necessities, mind you.
The audacity of using an emergency card for a lavish party, especially after years of her silent support. It just speaks volumes about the parents' sense of entitlement. But I bet Grandma Martha wasn't done.
Not even close. Grandma Martha chimed in, her voice surprisingly strong. And when confronted, she said, making eye contact with the parents, they brushed it off, saying, and I quote, you'll probably never marry and won't miss the money.
She used the quote, devastating.
Is that, Grandma continued, how you treat the daughter who has literally kept a roof over your heads for years? The room apparently just crackled. Emma's parents were beet red, stammering, totally exposed. And Terry. For the first time in her life, she looked utterly mortified. The carefully constructed facade just shattered.
Wow. Public humiliation is a powerful tool, though a risky one. What was the immediate aftermath?
Well, the fallout from that evening was immediate and spectacular. The lavish party became this public spectacle of familial negligence. The story, probably embellished, spread like wildfire through their social circles.
Gossip travels fast.
Definitely. The next day, local society pages subtly referenced the unusual financial arrangements at the engagement party, leaving no doubt as to the true benefactor. But the real twist, the unexpected, ending to this part of the story was yet to come.
Okay, there's more. This public shaming, while harsh, feels like a necessary first step. It dismantled their facade, laid bare the true dynamics, but it needed a follow-up, right? Something beyond just public humiliation. It needed like a structural change to the relationship itself.
And that's exactly what happened. 2 days later, a legal document arrived at Emma's parents' house. Not from a lawyer initially, but from EJ Technology.
Her company, okay. What was it?
It wasn't a lawsuit. It was a meticulously detailed bill. An invoice.
An invoice. For what?
It itemized every single payment Emma had made on their behalf over the years. Mortgage, utilities, insurance, medical expenses, everything she had records for.
No way.
Yes way. It included compounded interest. And then at the bottom, a line item that just sealed it. Consulting fee, financial management and oversight for the past decade based on industry standards.
A consulting fee, that's a key insight here, the reframing. She didn't just demand her money back, she presented it as a bill for professional services rendered. So it wasn't just a daughter seeking repayment, it was a company seeking compensation. It completely realigns the nature of their relationship from this assumed emotional one to a purely transactional one. It forces them to acknowledge the value of her contributions in a way they never did emotionally.
And the staggering total, $4.7 million.
$0.7 million.
Yep. Attached was a polite professional letter signed by Emma, but very legalistic in tone, demanding reimbursement for services and expenses, with a 30-day payment term and an asset liquidation clause if they didn't pay.
Whoa. How did the parents react to that?
Predictably. Hysterical. Panicked. But Emma's response when they called her screaming was calm, detached. She told them, "I'm merely collecting on services rendered."
Ouch, cold.
She added, "This isn't about revenge, not truly. It's about demonstrating the true cost of taking someone for granted, of seeing your own daughter as an unlimited resource."
That's powerful because it feels like it's not driven by hot anger anymore, but by this cold, objective assessment of value and worth. She made them pay the true cost, not just financially, but also making them see the cost of their disregard. This shift from assumed unconditional giving to a clear, itemized accounting is just profound.
Even Terry called, apparently her usual bluster gone, replaced by shaky uncertainty. Emma's patient explanation to her sister was, "I'm teaching them a lesson, the lesson that actions have consequences and that love isn't a blank check."
So the bill's out there, $4.7 million. Did they just pay it? Where did the grandparents fit back in?
Right, so this wasn't just about the money itself. Emma's grandparents quietly initiated the final, most impactful part of their plan. They had comfortable savings and they liquidated a significant portion to create a separate account.
Okay. For the parents.
Not directly. When Emma's parents came crawling to them for help because $4.7 million wasn't exactly lying around, they were met not with pity, but with firm conditions.
This is where the road to redemption truly begins. And it's a critical phase, right? Understanding how true forgiveness might actually be earned. It's not immediate. It's about earning it through real change.
Exactly.
The grandparents understood that true transformation requires effort, humility, and a deep understanding of past mistakes, not just a handout.
Precisely. Grandpa John apparently stated, "We cannot simply give you the money. That would defeat the purpose of Emma's lesson. You need to earn your way back." The terms were clear.
Yeah, okay, what were they?
Weekly financial literacy courses.
Required
volunteering at a local charity to experience giving without expectation.
Building empathy.
Nice. And most importantly, start spending dedicated quality time with Emma. Truly listening to her life, her challenges, her achievements, not just surface level stuff.
The core emotional repair.
Okay. And write a formal apology, acknowledging their past behaviors and expressing genuine remorse.
That's crucial, the acknowledgement.
In return for doing all that, the grandparents would loan them the funds to pay EJ Technologies, with strict repayment terms, mind you, and a requirement to sell their oversized house and downsize significantly.
Wow. So consequences, learning, and relational repair all built in. It's a multifaceted approach. It addresses not just the financial debt, but the emotional and relational ones too. It forces them to develop empathy and a new perspective. Genuine change rarely happens without that clear understanding and commitment to new behaviors.
And what happened to Terry in all this?
Yeah, what about the golden child?
Well, her engagement dissolved under the scrutiny and the financial implosion. It was a harsh reality check for her, too.
I can imagine.
She actually started working part-time, volunteering alongside her parents sometimes, and for the first time, genuinely reaching out to Emma, asking for advice, trying to connect. She even started some online graphic design courses.
So maybe hitting rock bottom sparked some growth for her, too.
It seems like it. The source emphasizes it wasn't an overnight transformation for anyone. There was awkwardness, relapses into old patterns, but slowly, painstakingly, things began to shift.
Which highlights that real change is a process, right? Not just one event. It takes time, sustained effort, and often, like with Terry, it's the indirect consequences that spark the most profound personal growth.
It truly was a process. Her parents began to, well, see her. They started showing genuine pride, asking about her work at EJ Tech, actually listening to the answers. Carrie started asking thoughtful questions, not just talking about herself.
That sounds like real progress. Did the money get paid back?
The $4.7 million was paid back mostly through the house sale and the structured loan from the grandparents. And Emma, what did she do with that consulting fee portion?
Yeah, what did she do?
She quietly donated the entire amount to a scholarship fund for aspiring female engineers.
Oh, wow. That's perfect. Ensuring others didn't feel as invisible as she once did. Paying it forward. So Emma learned, it seems, that true worth isn't determined by external validation, but by internal conviction. And sometimes, holding someone accountable, showing them the true cost of their actions, is actually the most loving act you can do.
Because it gives them the chance to change.
Exactly. It gives them the opportunity to earn their way back, to respect, to love, and to, hopefully, a genuine, healthy family dynamic. This difficult path ultimately led to a quieter, more genuine family, one where Emma finally felt seen.
What a journey. Our deep dive into Emma's story really highlights these profound themes of accountability, that really hard road to redemption, and maybe the ultimate reward of genuine connection.
Yeah.
It shows how critical it is sometimes to address these deep-seated emotional and financial imbalances within families, no matter how uncomfortable that confrontation might be.
Indeed. It forces us, and you listening, to consider the long-term impact of our actions and the possibility of transformation even in the face of really deep-seated hurt.
So it leaves us with a final thought, something for you to maybe mull over.
Yeah, building on this whole theme of repair and forgiveness. What would you say is the most challenging aspect of forgiving someone who has deeply hurt you?